And I'll read the land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the county of Haliburton is located on Treaty 20 Mississauga territory and in the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations, which are Curve Lake, Rama, Hiawatha, Alderville, Scugog Island, Beau Soleil, and Georgina First Nations. We acknowledge a shared presence of Indigenous nations throughout the area and recognize its original Indigenous inhabitants as stewards of its lands, waters since time immemorial. Okay, time for Oscar to come in and tell us how well our financiers are doing. You're not Oscar, you're Jennifer.
Hi, Jen.
Hi, Jen, how are you?
Presentation.
She gonna get you hooked up okay, Jen?
Can anyone hear me? Because I can't
Yes.
hear anything. Okay, I
Yes.
see David say yes, but I
Yes.
don't hear it.
I can hear you. I can hear you fine. On bottom left-hand corner of the screen, do you have the audio thing on it?
I think I'm gonna have to come back. I don't know how to get the sound. I'm gonna come back.
Okay. We'll give you a sec before we start. Oscar, how are you?
I'm very well, David. How are you?
How's my hometown of Sudbury doing?
You'll be happy to know, David, it's been exactly 10 days since we've been snowed on. So,
Really? Good God.
yep.
Oh, my goodness.
And if you want to hear about that story, 705-669. And it's been an interesting year. Things are good. Things are good. How are
Good.
things with you?
Very well, thank you. Is that better,
Welcome
Jen?
back, Oscar.
Sorry?
Jen's good to go.
Yeah, I'm good. As it turns out, if you stop the mute button on your computer, then you can hear things again. So
Yeah.
yeah.
All
Good
right.
lesson.
Okay. We'll get going. We have Oscar Polini from KPMG with us to talk about our draft financial statements. Over to you, Oscar.
Oh, thank you very
much. Screen. Good. stuff. Okay.
Hopefully you can see it all. So thank you very much and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's always a pleasure to be here, I will confess. And so thank you for allowing us to be here today to provide the library board with a presentation of your financial statements for the 2022 calendar/fiscal year. So just if I may, so we've released our financial statements. The financial statements are draft pending approval by the board today. We have conducted our audit in accordance with Canadian auditing standards, and those are the rules that define how auditors undertake audit procedures. We don't say that the financial statements are 100% accurate because that would require us to test every transaction. Rather, what we do say is that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. And materiality is the threshold of errors that as auditors, we're able to absorb before we either have to get them fixed or we change our audit opinion. And so for the public sector, it's typically calculated as a percentage of revenues up to 3%. So we've used 3% of prior year's revenue of about $36,000. That's our materiality. Now, materiality drives a number of different aspects of our audit. We use it, for example, to calculate sample sizes, but from the board's perspective, probably the most important use of materiality is it calculates what's known as a posting threshold. This is the level above which, if there are any errors that are uncorrected, we need to report it to the board of directors at a meeting such as this. It's calculated as 5% of materiality or an amount of $1,800. And that basically, ladies and gentlemen, is the level of precision that we have. And I'm happy to report there are no uncorrected audit differences over our posting threshold. So this audit is about as clean as it gets. As I've mentioned, we're prepared to issue our opinion. It's unqualified. We haven't had to modify it. There's basically three things we need. One is we need the board to approve the financial statements. The second thing is we need a management representation letter, which is basically county and library personnel telling us they've disclosed everything to us. And the third thing is we just need to sort of take all of this stuff, assemble it into our files and have the sign off. So then when that's done, draft stamp comes off, signature goes on, audit's finished for the year. So in terms of the financial statements themselves, the first statement is the statement of financial position, and it's a snapshot of your assets and your liabilities at December 31st. It is admittedly a very straightforward financial statement. And the reason for this is because the county basically acts as your bank. And so what that means is, to the extent that you have accounts receivable, the county picks it up. To the extent that you have accounts payable, generally speaking, the county picks it up and runs it through the due to froms. Also sitting in this balance is your reserves. So basically your accumulated surplus and any reserves, the county is actually holding the cash. And so because of that, you really only have a cash balance of about $440, which is your petty cash. You can see that the County of Haliburton owes the library about $343,000. And once again, your accumulated surplus. From a liabilities perspective, there are some accruals for salaries and for professional fees that haven't gone through the county's account payable system yet. So it's sitting as a payable. In terms of other assets, though, your most significant asset are your tangible capital assets. This is the investment that the library has made in your supporting infrastructure, specifically around your collections, your information technology, and the like. And so if you go to this slide, what you'll find is your tangible capital assets have actually gone down by about $11,000. There was about $100,000 worth of additions that were made this year, which brings this number up, and about $110,000 of amortization expense, which is how you expense your capital over their useful life, which brings this number down. So when you look at the major additions that you've had during the year, there's an investment that the library has made with respect to your website. There's books, DVDs, computers, and a variety of other assets as well. So the other item that you'll see are prepaid expenses. This is an advance payment that you've made with respect to subscription fees. And so because you'll get the benefit of that in 2023, you don't expense it in 2022. You set it up as a prepaid. You'll take it into expense as you earn those fees. So when you look at the next statement, which is the statement of operations and your accumulated surplus, this one, I would suggest to you, ladies and gentlemen, if I was a board member, this is the one where I would be paying attention to, because this is a summary of your revenues and your expenses during the year. What you can see is that your total revenues have gone up by about $90,000, or just over 7%. A big chunk of that is the contributions from the county, which has gone up by about $98,000. Offsetting this is a bit of a decrease with respect to donation revenues. Last year, your donation revenues were about $14,000 higher than this year. What you'll find is that your expenses have gone up by about 5%, or $60,000, and generally in two categories. One is with respect to salaries and benefits, where it's gone on from about $885,000 to just under $912,000. And also your library supplies have gone up from about $74,000 to $100,000. And what we're seeing, ladies and gentlemen, across the sector is, as we move out of the pandemic, things are starting to approach pre-pandemic, or what I'll call normal levels. So it's not unusual for us to see libraries having increasing in staffing costs, increasing in supplies costs and other expenses, because the level of activity is popping up. The good news is, and the reason why I would suggest this is of interest to the board, is you've had a surplus. So the surplus for the year was about $70,000. And I want to caution, that is a bit of an accounting surplus, because there's amortization or depreciation expense that's in there that you need to use to fund your capital. What I would also suggest, ladies and gentlemen, is point in time does not a story make. And so for the interest of the board, what we've done is we've provided a summary of your financial results over the last 6 years. Basically the information that KPMG has as auditors. And what we've tried to do here is, the dark blue bar is your surplus for the year, the yellow bar are your capital additions, and the red dotted line is your revenue. And what you can see from 2017 to 2020, your average revenues have gone up by about 5% a year. So a good, healthy rate of growth. What you can also see is probably as important or more important than your surplus per se, is the amount of capital that you've invested over the last 6 years. And what you'll find is from 2017 to 2022, the library, and by extension, the county, has actually invested almost $700,000 into materials, into equipment, into infrastructure that's necessary to maintain the library system. And it's interesting because oftentimes as an auditor, what you'll get the question, so how are we doing? And when I look at these financial statements and I look at this slide, for example, and once again, I'm not a board member, so what I say really doesn't matter. But what I would suggest to you is this is a very good picture from a sustainability from two standpoints. One is you're consistently generating operating results that are either break even or positive. And that's quite nice compared to the alternative, which is a library system that's losing money. And so what you can see here is that there's a healthy level of revenue and a healthy level of cost control that allows you to stay within your means. So from an operational perspective, you're sustainable. What I would say that, at least from my admittedly biased perspective, is probably more important is the fact that you continue to invest approximately $100,000 to $110,000 a year in your collection. And what that means, ladies and gentlemen, is you're staying current, you're responding to trends, and you're focused a bit more from a long-term perspective because you're investing in your capabilities to continue to be relevant to your customers and to the residents of the county. And so when I talk about how I look at this, and I think it's a good news picture from those two perspectives, I think operationally you've got good sustainability because you've got surplus. I think from a long-term perspective, you've got good sustainability because you're continuing to invest, you're continuing to renew. And I know there's always the conversation with respect to how do libraries fare with respect to staying relevant in the current digital age. And if you'll indulge me, Mr. Chair, I'd like to tell you a story. I've gone back to high school, and I've gone back to high school because I'm reading Fahrenheit 451 and I'm reading 1984 by George Orwell. And we were talking about a quote from George Orwell. And what I quickly realized, that the kids in my bullpen have never read the book. And when I asked them, so what are you guys reading? They don't read books. And yet they're incredibly literate and they're incredibly tech savvy. But how it used to work in 1984, when I was reading 1984, isn't how it works today. And I would suggest to you the investments that you're continuing to make keep you relevant, or people like the 24-year-old sitting in my bullpen, as opposed to the 53-year-old guy on the call. So once again, I'm not on the board, but from the outside looking in, just from a perspective, I'd suggest to you that not only have you had a successful year from a financial standpoint, you've had an incredibly successful last 6 years, particularly given the fact that we got hit by a pandemic. So Mr. Chair, members of the board, that concludes my presentation. I'd like to thank you once again for allowing us the opportunity to be here. It's always a pleasure to serve the library board in the county. If there are any questions, more than happy to answer them at this time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Oscar. Are there any questions? Thank you. It was a wonderful presentation, and congratulations to all of us for doing what we're doing. Apparently, we're doing pretty well. I have a motion. Be it resolved that the Haliburton County Library Board accepts the auditor's presentation and draft financial statements as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Jennifer, seconded by, just let me write this down. Seconded by Cease. Thank you very much, Oscar, and say hello to all my buddies up in Sudbury.
I will. Take care, everybody.
And I don't think Aldous Huxley would know how to prepare his book today. Never mind back in 1984. He wouldn't know how to write these days.
I will tell you, David, 1984 by George Orwell is absolutely my favorite book. And hate to ruin the story, but it's great how you have this protagonist going all the way through and you think he's going to win right until they put him in the room with the rats and they just break him. It's absolutely heartbreaking, but 37 years later, I'm still reading the book and loving it. So
good for you. Thanks for joining us. Take care.
Take care, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Now we're going to move into the regular agenda. I need a motion to adopt the agenda. The motion is be it resolved that the Haliburton County Library Board adopts the agenda for the May 10th, 2023 regular meeting. Moved by,
We just need to add an item.
oh yes, sorry, I forgot about that already. Yeah. There's going to be an item called 9.4A, which is accessibility that Chris has asked me put it on the agenda. It does not replace 9.5. Okay, Lisa moved it, seconded by. How about Jennifer? All right. Thank you very much. All in favor? Carries. All right, first item on the agenda is the declaration of any pecuniary interest. Seeing none, we'll go to the consent agenda, which consists of the Haliburton County Public Library Board, April 12th minutes, the April 28th, 23 County Librarians Report, and the circulation statistics by branch. Any questions on the consent agenda? Okay, I have a motion that the be it resolved that the Haliburton County Library Board accepts the consent agenda for May 10th, 2023 regular meeting as presented. Moved by anybody at the table there I can see? Adele, thank you, Adele. And seconded by Paul. You got your hand up way back there?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Now we'll move into financial reports. Chris, do you want to speak to this? And I think Adele may have some questions.
Sure. So we actually just added that to 9.4A. But I mean, I can answer questions about the financial report beyond the format that you see it in, which is a temporary format.
Yeah, that's really the question. Could you explain that format? Adele, was that what your question?
So I was going to add that to the new business for 9.4, if that's all right. Just
Oh, sure. Okay. We'll leave that.
Because I have a little bit of a presentation prepared.
Okay, thank you.
But I mean, okay.
Are you okay with that, Adele?
Yes, no, I think this part should would be best served just with the numbers and then.
Okay. All right, Chris, do you want to just do the regular one?
Sure. Yeah. So if there's any questions, I apologize for the format that it's in. I'm on a learning trajectory for creating accessible documents from scratch. And as I'll explain the reasons for that later, I just wanted to open the floor if anyone had questions about where we stand. I mean, for me, I know where the numbers are quite well, and I would say that we're on track, at least given what Oscar just identified as being a successful 7th year to come in terms of spending and sustainability. I'm actually really pleased with the numbers and where we're at right now. We do have some big ticket items coming up, but the one thing I wanted to point out that might not be clear from Oscar's presentation is that the actual surplus is $744.64. The number that he gave of about 70,000 or thereabouts is less the cost of the van that we've taken out, plus the 20,000 in reserves that we have for branding, furnishings, and updating the workroom. So that comes off of the 70,000 or thereabouts, and that's what. So my understanding is that's what the Director of Finance is proposing to the County Council to accept as our final surplus for the year. I just wanted to make that clarification.
Thank you. Chris, am I right to say we're running about 11,000 surplus right now? Not surplus, but ahead of budget?
For the year?
Yeah, year-to-date actual?
Yeah, we've got lots of room right now in many of our budget lines. But some of our expenses are just fixed later in the year. So the numbers will change quickly, but we're on track very comfortably in terms of wages and benefits. The big ticket items like the collections, Cheryl and I talk regularly about where we should be versus where we are. I put a little bit of encouragement to ask staff to to be vigilant about staying on track with their budgets. So for example, programming and making sure that we purchase things for summer reading club and whatnot, so that the numbers are, not over or under.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, I have a motion that says, be it resolved that the Haliburton County Library Board accepts the financial report as presented. May I have a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Lisa. And seconded by Cease. All in favor? Thank you very much. Motion is carried. Now we'll move any business arising from the minutes. I don't think there are any, are there, Chris, that I'm aware of?
I don't believe so.
Okay, great. And we'll move into new business then, and I'll turn it over to you to go through the items in the new business, okay? Until we get to Cheryl's presentation.
Sure. So to honor our colleague Tim Casey, we ordered and we expedited a crystal, not sure if you can see it, a recognition piece to thank him for his time on the staff as well as on the board. And I did really want to, my intention was to have that for him in his hand, and his family as well. But unfortunately it came just after his funeral service. So I did let the family know that we have it, and I'm going to meet with them tomorrow and present a card from the board and the staff, as well as a thank you on behalf of all of the people who donated funds in lieu of, say, sympathy flowers or something like that. And it's been a really lovely way that his legacy is continued by supporting the board. And we do intend to use the funds that are coming in to improve the functionality of the van, something that Tim mentioned he was concerned with. So ergonomics in terms of reaching into the van, because it's much longer than the one we use now, as well as decorating it with the vinyl as well. So the money will be focused on the courier van, which he was really invested in seeing that coming.
Good, great.
We will circulate a card to board members who are here today, but if you're at home viewing, please feel welcome to write me a short email just with anything you want me to add, and we'll sign on behalf of our board colleagues.
Thank you, Chris. Will you have it, when are you taking it to his family?
Tomorrow. So
okay.
It's a bit of a deadline. I can wait a little bit if you need more time.
I'll send a note after this meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Next.
So the next one's a short item. It's the follow-up about the Peterborough Public Library relationship. It was recommended by the board last meeting that we consider a 6-month trial period, which I think is a great idea. I did reach out to the CEO of the Peterborough Library. This is Jen, and let her know that we're interested, and we just need a bit more time for us to get our ducks in a row, so to speak, with Aaron helping us sort out the digital assets that we offer versus the print media, because some of our licenses, as you may recall, don't allow us to share with others who aren't in our catchment area, our region. So we are working on that, and I just wanted to give you an update that it's going well, and we look forward to a new relationship and new statistics from this library.
Thank you.
Shall I move on?
Yeah, please.
Okay. We heard back from most board members concerning the library June branch tours. We're down to actually 6 options, given the doodle poll. They're all equal in the sense that the same number of people said they were available, but by choosing one day over another, we would exclude someone. So, depending on the day we go with. So I just wanted to say the dates out loud, and then if you could check your calendars, and we'll narrow it down and pick a day.
Okay.
It's not going to be possible to include everyone, unfortunately, just because everyone's got a busy schedule in June. So those dates are Friday, June 2nd, Tuesday, June 6th, And then all the way to Monday, June 19th. And then Thursday, June the 22nd. Friday, June 23rd. And the last option standing is Monday, June 26th. And just a reminder that this would be a full day tour. We did look into a bus service, which would make it easier in terms of carpooling and organizing. It was, the first quote we got was $1,600 for an 8-hour tour. So we could literally pay every board member to drive their own car if we were wanting to, and it would be cheaper than that. So I think we could probably organize maybe 3 cars or something.
Chris, Jen has a question. Go ahead, Jen.
Has there been a tour in the past, say in the last term of the board? And without wanting to throw anyone under the bus, I just wonder if there was a way to ensure the folks who have never been on a tour were able to go, if someone has to fall off the list.
I don't remember a tour list. No.
No,
Lisa,
we
sorry,
didn't
no.
because of COVID.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, okay.
None of us have been on a tour, but I've actually been to all the branches. Just I went for a drive one day and visited them all.
Yeah, and don't base it on me either, because I have a crazy schedule and I can't drive currently, so
Yeah.
I'm kind of out of the loop, so.
So traditionally, we have done it at the beginning of orientation year, so the first year. But while we just were talking now, I thought of another alternative, and I can show you an example for what it looks like. But there's a Samsung 360 camera where you can actually map out with photographs a tour, and you can do it virtually. And I'm just wondering if perhaps, given the current state of our calendars and schedules, that maybe we'd consider doing it this way. I mean, we could organize. I'm very happy to take people around. Andrea and I are available on all of those 6 days, and if we had, even one group of say 3 or 4, that's possible. But for the rest, it would be really nice for everyone to see the branches, and then you'll have some context for size. But like I said, I can show you an example of that.
I think, Chris, it would be great if we went there in person, to be honest with you. I think it's important that we see the building and meet the staff. So I'm going to suggest that you recirculate that poll. It was a doodle poll, right?
Yeah, we just had equal weighting. It's just one person couldn't and one could, and then it offsets 5 people out of 8 for sure on those days.
Okay, so
I'll send it out.
Yeah, and then perhaps you and I can look at it and just pick a date based on, if Lisa isn't coming, I understand, respect that. Let's make sure that we pick a day that she wasn't available or was available, and we'll work. That'll be a starting point. We'll work around that. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
So I've been to 6 of the locations.
Mm-hmm.
So like I've been to all 4, obviously, in Highlands East, and also to both Haliburton and Minden, and I go to all 6 of those on a regular basis. The only ones that I've never been to are the ones in Algonquin Highlands.
Yeah.
So there's 2 over there, and I have not been to that.
One.
There's one there. Yeah.
One and some
One there?
very lovely lockers.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Well, we could visit the new Robinson store, the new Robinson owners, when we go look at the lockers. Okay, I'll leave that to you, Chris. Okay. And
Okay, thank you. Just to follow up, the one thing I would say about seeing the branches in person, one of the benefits for me will be that in terms of a facilities report, which will be coming later in the year, it gives us a chance to review some of the long-term expenses that are coming up, such as, carpet that hasn't been replaced in 12 years. Like, this is going to be a conversation with the local municipalities, but also the board as well, because we have ideas about what might, need to happen. So it would give us an advantage to talk and point, show and tell, really.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really important that we see the facilities, and more importantly, meet the staff. I think it's important that we're present, if you want. Okay, we'll move on to the next item. 9.4 is the date for the next policy committee meeting. We have 61 policies in this lovely organization. We've covered 15 of them. So there's 45 or so to go.
Yeah. So we have a pretty rigorous schedule over the next 4 years. But we would like to meet quarterly as was decided last time. So that would be in March, June, September, and December. So we
Okay.
need to book a time when the policy committee would be able to meet. Now, we heard back from almost everyone, but David, we'll need you to chime in as well. The dates proposed so far were June 2nd and June 23rd. The only challenge with June 2nd is that it doesn't give Andrea and I a lot of time to pour over, 5 to 9 policies and get them ready.
Chris, I'm good
So-
on I'm good on the 23rd, if you want to pick
Okay.
that date now and lock it down.
Okay, so it would be an online meeting, and the only thing is Lisa said it's not her first choice, but you did say, Lisa, that perhaps if it was online, you could make the 23rd? Oh, you're still on.
You're on mute.
Sorry, talking away and the mute button's on. I'm away, but I can zoom in, so I should be okay. That was the
Okay.
23rd, correct?
Yeah, the 23rd, yeah.
I'll just make it work. It's not, the meetings aren't long, so.
No.
And what time was that at, David?
Chris?
Or Chris
So
then?
we haven't picked a time yet, but
Oh.
the quarterly meetings will be a little bit longer than the monthly meetings because we hope to go through, twice as many at least. We really, in order to keep up for the 4-year period, we just have to just focus on a chunk if we can.
Yeah. You want to
but-
start, Lisa is, I don't know where you're going, but it's 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, I'm
Good for you.
up.
Okay, Chris, how about 10 a.m.?
Okay, now, we'll be, of course, sending the policy drafts in advance, so you can make comments, and then, if you can't stay for the whole thing, at least we have your thoughts and contributions, so we'll make it work.
Perfect. So 23rd at 10 a.m. And you'll send out a Zoom link and all the materials, right?
That's right.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Look forward to that. Maybe we could get a dozen or so done at this meeting. Wouldn't that be nice? Chris, we'll go to the accessibility new business item that you added in, which relates back to the financial statement, how they're structured, okay? Leave it with
Yeah,
you.
thanks for your patience with that. So we did have some questions coming in from at least a couple board members actually about the behind the scenes activity that we were engaging in to prepare for these meetings. So a board package is not just me, it's the whole admin team and sometimes branch staff who submit photos and whatnot. So a lot of people go into the paperwork part of things. But I compile it and pull it together. And one of the things that's changed, and it actually changed before I arrived, the outgoing CEO said on my first week, oh, by the way, Chris, you're signed up for an October 5th training session about online accessibility. And I didn't know much about it at the time, and now I'm pretty well informed. The public sector, the private sector, and not-for-profits, all organizations in Ontario since 2005 are required by the Accessibility of Ontarians with Disabilities Act to make changes.
Okay, thank you.
So we're required to make changes that are on a timeline. The time is running out for many of us. 2023 requires that we have all of our changes made online without penalties after that year. And by 2025, everyone's supposed to be in full compliance. There is a joint accessibility advisory committee that's been meeting. There are 4 counselors as well as 5 public members. This group, I believe, is the author of an accessibility committee multi-year joint plan, 2018 to 2022. And again, all of this was put in place before I arrived. There's a few things that you need to know about accessibility. One is that it's not just being driven by the county, it's being driven by municipalities everywhere. And I'll give you the Coles notes. So
Chris, and provincial legislation, correct?
So yeah, it starts with the province, and that,
Okay.
but all the municipalities are required to follow and
Yeah.
make some changes. So access to all is part of what we do at the library. We know that it's part of our vision statement about inclusivity, and it shows up, the word accessibility shows up in many of our core documents. It's the right thing to do, to be thoughtful about the people who use our services, and a lot of people see wheelchairs, glasses, microphones at the desk, and hearing aids as tangible items, obviously, that are accessible. But there's also a component in which we serve people digitally, and so the website has been built to the highest standards that exist now, called WCAG. And Aaron, as you may recall, gave a presentation at OLA, which brought up interest from over 100 library staff who were all in the same boat as us. And we're proud to be a leader in terms of the website. But anything that gets posted publicly online, including CivicWeb, which we use the subscription that the county provides, needs to be compliant with the Act. And I'll explain what those details look like. So the second point I wanted to make is that it's not just the right thing to do from a moral or a service perspective, but it's also a legal and a legislative requirement, so that if you aren't complying, certainly by the end of 2023, there's fines for organizations, depending on the severity of the non-compliance, of up to $100,000 per day, and that directors and admin staff are on the hook for up to $50,000 per day, again, based on severity. So like, they're taking it seriously for a good reason. And complying with AOA DA isn't a debate. That's why I'm providing some information and answering some questions. The third point I want to make is that this is it presents a learning curve for all staff across the county. Every department has been having these conversations for over a year and a half, and now that it's come to the practical side, we're in the process of learning in-house, teaching each other and practicing the steps that need to be done to convert a document that you see online, such as ones you've already seen. For example, the circulation table. This is fully accessible now, but it took us a little while to get there, and now we just use it as a template, and we check it like editing each month. So the work's been done on that. The next piece is the financial report, which comes to us via a software called Questica, which is a bit, it was a bit clunky for me to learn initially. And all the departments in the county use it. It's provided by the Director of Corporate Affairs with the county. One of the questions that we received was, if the county is providing the software, could they not ensure that there's some module to ensure that it pumps out a fully accessible document? And the short answer is, unfortunately, technology hasn't caught up to where humans are requiring us to be yet. There have been changes with Microsoft, even pleasant changes in the last 6 months, to improve our experience in creating documents from the beginning. But the private sector is not being held to the same standards as quickly as the public sector is. And the private sector is creating a software that we purchase and subscribe to. So one day I envision that there'll be a time when we pump out a report and it's fully accessible and everyone will be happy and it won't require some tweaking. The last point I want to make is that once the training's done, this is eventually better for everyone. We'll be serving everyone optimally. Staff are going to be better at it. It's like learning French or typing. It takes some time to get it figured out. In the case of the Questica document that comes each month, it's not a 120-page document, it's a 2-page document. So Aaron's able to do it in 17 minutes or less. And one day, if I can get some focused time, hopefully this summer when we're not meeting with the board, I'm going to be that much better at it myself. So I apologize for the state of the financial report this time, because I didn't quite get there and hit the mark. But it is fully accessible in the format that you see it, as awkward as it is. The one point I wanted to make is that a question came up about this exception that is in the Act, whereby you can put this on your website. It says, pursuant to this clause, we excuse ourselves from the Act because we'll provide you a copy later if you ask. That as we've talked about with the admin staff, that clause does a lot of heavy lifting. It was intended for people who have massive tomes of like 120-page asset management plans, who can't afford in their small communities to pay a private company to remediate large files that they need their public to be able to see. It's not meant for the CEO who is too tired to or didn't keep up with his training to learn how to do it. And so that, unfortunately, it's not a best practice. It's not the spirit of the act, really. But like I said, I envision a time where it's going to be down to like 10 minutes where we tweak the file and get it out the door. And when I check with some of my department head colleagues, they're getting delegates to help them with their package, because as you can imagine, it takes me days to prepare this and write and compile. And then to add this on top of my workload, it is the reason why I'm not keeping up yet. But I'm hoping that, I can get some help. And
so Chris, I have a quick question. So
Sure.
the item on the agenda is the financial report. Now, that's been done in an accessible format.
Yeah.
The financial report as you see it today, yes.
Yeah.
It reads with a screen reader flawlessly, but it's not accessible in the sense that a table is a beautiful thing, right? Like you look at the numbers,
Okay.
makes sense. But what we're talking about is like someone who is visually impaired, a computer is reading the table to them. So it has to be set up a way that the computer can access it in the same way yours and my eyes can.
Yeah, I've seen that. Okay. Are there any other questions for Chris on this? Adele, you raised this in a quick note. Do you want to speak to it at all?
Yes, I was concerned that staff time was being spent creating a version of an accessible financial statement, which read to me, when I received it, it read to me like a narrative. Not as a financial statement. It was a financial narrative. And so I asked what that was all about, because I hadn't seen something like that before. And then when I discovered that it was being done to comply with accessibility requirements, I thought, well, there must be a better solution. And so the more I thought about it, my concern and my questions were, well, if the province and the county want these reports to be accessible, why are they not being delivered to the library in an accessible format? And if they can't be delivered in an accessible format, does that mean the county's reports also have to be converted? So then I looked into what other townships were doing, and that's when I found that exclusionary statement, where if it's not practicable, you can excuse yourself with the caveat that if requested, you'll produce an accessible financial statement. And I also looked at the Questica website, because I thought, well, I mean, if the whole world is talking about accessibility, why are financial software companies not working on this? And I'm wondering if you could follow up with that, because according to their website, they do produce an accessible or software that is accessible, which was also why I questioned about whether there was an upgrade that could be bought, because of course we don't know exactly what version of Questica is being used by the county. And my whole concern with this query was because I don't want to get into operational questions, because that's not what the board does. But I was concerned about the budget we had approved for human resources for the year, and was that sufficient if staff and management were going to be having to spend extra time on producing statements the hard way, when there was a solution out there that maybe wasn't being investigated yet.
Thank you, Adele. Chris, can you follow up on that, particularly with respect to software that may be available to help us? You'll probably have to do it through the county, I would think, because this is a county mandated under the direction of the province to do it. And perhaps follow up with them and see what they're doing with respect to this. I mean, the Adele's point is very good. We have limited human resources to work on these things. And, you know, we want everything that we do to be accessible. That's our policy. But, you know, it would take a lot of time right now, the way it is sitting, to do that, I think.
So great, and I will follow up. Thank you. I just wanted to apologize because it is an awkward period. We're in a learning
Mhm.
trajectory.
I understand, yeah.
There's so many awkward things happening. For example, Oscar came today with a presentation. He doesn't know anything about the county's rules and what I'm expecting on May 1st, which was our deadline. And so he presented his documents, and I said, the first question I asked the county office was, you know, are these accessible? They're like, no, but we will provide them for you. So they went and spent Monday morning, and I don't know how many dozens of pages Oscar's presentation was, but it's fully accessible, and we were really grateful for that. But in the case of Questica, you know, I pump out my report. I'm responsible for it. It would be great if I push a button and it comes out with a finished product. I don't honestly, knowing what it takes to do it, and we'll see. That'll be my next question for IT.
Okay. Any other questions for Chris? We'll leave it that you can get back to us on the timing of this and what the expectations are with respect to being fully compliant.
Yeah, we're clear on what needs to be done in order to get them up. It's just that it so happens that tables are very complex compared to narrative, such as like in my report, which you'll notice everything's changed. Like all the photos are on the left side. All of the headings are very specifically sized. There's different color aspects between dark and light for people who have contrast issues. And now there's two types of training. The training that we all have on how to create a document from the start so you don't have problems cascading over time. And you can use templates like our policy template that saves us time. And then there's the tweaking that needs to happen to documents that people hand you that aren't appropriate for a general public now. And that's what we're grappling with. So it is the silver light of this conversation is that my crappy accessible format, if you'll excuse my language, is open up the conversation. I have been, to be fair, explaining this to the previous board as well as the current board and dropping, you know, accessibility as is happening, but it doesn't, until we actually got to the nuts and bolts of it, it's really hard to tell you what it means for us. I'm not worried about the staff HR yet because it hasn't really proved onerous. And we were given the option by the county that if we had huge documents like our strategic plan, which actually was written accessibly, that we could pay to have that remediated, you know, as a package deal with the rest of the departments, but it hasn't come to that. So.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate your updating us on that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the questions.
Okay, we're gonna move now to a presentation from Cheryl about the collection.
Hi, everyone.
Our collection.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Great. So as mentioned, my name is Cheryl, and I am the Collection Development Coordinator at Haliburton County Public Library.
Do you think when you're finished, you could come over to my house and help me with my thousands collections of books and get them off the floor and on a shelf somewhere so I can find them?
I know a great group called the Friends of the Haliburton County Public Library.
Thank you. Go ahead.
The Collection Development Coordinator position requires managing all aspects of the library's physical and digital collections, including selection, cataloging, organization, maintenance, and distribution. Interlibrary loan management entails initiating loans from other library systems to fill our patrons' requests, responding to other library systems asking to borrow our material, and overseeing the processing of interlibrary loans. And the marketing and promoting aspect of the position has, over the years, included creating newsletters, presentations, articles in local newspapers, and book talks on Canoe FM. Managing the physical and digital collections involves watching for evolving patron and community needs. Digital circulation increased from 18% of total circulation in 2019 to 41% in 2022. A portion of the book budget funds have shifted from the physical collection to the digital collection to keep pace with this change in patron demand. The transition in fund allocation has us now focusing on how to best serve our patrons with the remaining amount. This leads us to question what parts of the physical collection are still being checked out regularly and what parts have declined in use. Some answers can be found when comparing the 2017 physical circulation numbers with 2022's. The most obvious change over the last 5 to 6 years is in DVD circulation, with DVDs taking second place in circulation statistics and adult fiction taking the lead. We can safely assume this is a result of more patrons being able to stream movies at their home or cottage. In other areas of significant decline in physical circulation, there are adult paperbacks, magazines, books on CD, and young adult books. Watching these trends and responding to them has an impact on collection decisions. In addition to the regular print and digital material, HCPL offers special collections through funding from the Friends of the Haliburton County Public Library. There are currently 69 popular book club sets. New titles are added each year thanks to the Friends. And each year, the Friends fund multiple copies of each of the Evergreen Award nominated titles, also very popular with our patrons. In 2019, the Mental Health and Wellbeing Resource List was developed and compiled with the professionals of Haliburton Highlands Family Health Team and Haliburton County Public Library. The Haliburton Echo reported on the collection when it was first created, and a picture from the article ended up on Bell Let's Talk Twitter feed, which was very exciting for us. The Rainbow Collection was created in 2017 through our supplier Library Bound. Fresh, current LGBTQ+ material is selected by the specialists at Library Bound for the Rainbow Collection and delivered weekly along with our regular deliveries. A special tag in the cataloging process allows for the Rainbow Collection and the Mental Health and Wellbeing Collection to easily be found on HCPL's website. Special care is also taken while cataloging to ensure our community collections are easily found, including local authors, Indigenous authors, Those Other Movies, Haliburton Highlands Green Burial Society, Haliburton Highlands Land Trust, and ULinks. The collection development coordinator position relies heavily on branch staff and couriers to ensure that distribution of the material is done in a timely, efficient manner. I'd like to end my presentation with a huge thanks to them all for the outstanding work they do in providing excellent patron service.
Thank you, Cheryl. That was lovely. Any questions of Cheryl? I have a couple, if you don't mind. I didn't look in the room. Anybody? Oh, Adele, you go ahead first, please.
Yes, in general, who decides what books are purchased for the library?
That would be me. So there is an automatic release program that's been set up with Library Bound. That's our supplier.
Okay.
And so every December, I tell them, I say, okay, here's, this much money. And here is how to divide how you spend. So spend this much on adult fiction, this much on adult nonfiction. And then they choose which titles to send to us based on the best-selling books that are coming up. I also have a lot of patron requests. So there's a lot of patron-driven collection development going on too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Adele. My question was kind of like that one, Cheryl. I'm really intrigued. I'm a kind of a techie guy, and I'm kind of intrigued at the transition that seems to be taking place from the paper book to the digital book. Do you see a day in the not too distant future where that the graphs will become equal?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because when I talk to people about, I'm a voracious reader. I've been a reader since I've been a little boy, and I'm not kidding. The thousands of books sitting in my house right now, and I'm still a tangible book guy. I like the paper. When I read a newspaper, I like to have the newspaper in front of me. But when I'm finished, I use it to light the fireplace later on. But I've always been like that. But and I'm an old guy, so the younger generation coming up, they're more accustomed to reading things and dealing with iPads and other things like that for their reading, e-readers and stuff. Is that a fair statement?
It might be. I have two sons, both in their 30s. One of them only reads ebooks.
Yeah.
And the other one only reads print. He has no idea why anyone would want to be reading an ebook. So it's just a preference. I read nonfiction books in digital format and fiction books in paper. So,
that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I suspect. I mean, my little grandkids, I bought them all iPads, and they do everything on their iPad. They read stuff, watch movies, and all that. The technology in your hand is seeming to be the trend, from what I can see, and it'll be curious to see when those lines cross, and the written book falls behind the ebook kind of thing. Jen, go ahead.
Yeah, and not to speak of audiobooks, our family
Yes.
is addicted to Libby, absolutely addicted to Libby, to the point
Yeah.
where we almost never get into the branch anymore.
Yeah.
So I think they're the three.
Yeah. One of my neighbors is exactly like that, and the other thing is that when I exercise, I'm addicted to podcasts.
Yeah.
And I'm always listening to my favorite podcasts all the time. So anyway, enough of that. Thank you very much, Cheryl, for your presentation. It's intriguing. I'm going to watch those trends over the coming years.
Yeah, thank you.
Paul, do you have a question? So sorry, Paul has a question.
So much a question, but I just wanted to thank Cheryl for her terrific response to patron requests. I know I'm often sending in requests for titles, whether it's political, social, current issues, titles that you see in the newspaper. And I'm just, amazed at how quickly I get a response to request, and it may be a purchase or maybe it's interlibrary, but or I hope to get something interlibrary, and then it becomes part of our collection. So thanks again for being so timely and responsive.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my honor.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. Appreciate the presentation. Look forward to meeting you in person someday.
Yeah.
Take care. Okay.
So
Next item. Next
David, we just have a resolution to accept Cheryl's presentation as presented.
Okay. I don't have one that you sent me. Is that?
So it's typical when we have a presentation that we would just have a short statement. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Okay. So be it resolved that the Haliburton County Library Board accepts the presentation from our collection development coordinator for information purposes.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Do you need to move it?
Sure.
Move by. We need to move it, Paul and Adele. Okay, great. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Sorry about that, Chris. I didn't have that motion with me.
Oh, that was my fault.
No, it's not a big deal. Municipal Roundtable, item 10. Any updates from Jennifer or Lisa or Cease?
No.
Okay, Jennifer, go ahead.
Well, it's not an update so much as a request to the board and to Chris. I have been hearing from members of council, not via council resolution, but just in normal conversation that, excuse me, bad time to get a cough, that they would love to see a bit more emphasis on the Stanhope branch, either in number of hours or in programming or something, just to bring Stanhope kind of back into the flow of things post-COVID, but also because of the closure, because we were missing a door for about 1,000 years and etc. And so not necessarily for discussion now, but perhaps I could leave it with you. If there's something that we could do to just honor and celebrate and reinvigorate Stanhope a little bit, that would be appreciated locally.
Thank you. We'll take that. Chris, you take that away.
Oh, sure. Just briefly, your timing's perfect for bringing it up. Thank you. Because we will, in the June meeting, be going over one of the policies about tiered service. So we actually have a policy that talks about what you can expect at different types of branches, and that comes down to size. So there's a tier 1, 2, and a tier 3. And perhaps when we write that, we could get input from each of the communities about where they feel it is. And really at the pleasure of the board, we could propose changes. We're working hard to get 2 new summer students as well to bring programs for everyone and take it to the road. A, finding someone who wants to take the job, and then B, who has transportation has been challenging, but we did get a few applications and we hope to start interviewing this week. But beyond that, we are down also a couple branch staff, and we're hoping to rectify that as well.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it very much. Jen?
Chris, in a word, could you tell me what the tiers 1, 2, and 3 are?
It's been a while since I read the policy, but I can send some, oh, yeah.
That would be great, just so that I've got something, they will be tantalized with that, and I'd like to be able to back up the inevitable question with an answer. So
Okay.
yeah, anytime, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Great question. Okay, members of the board, we're going to go into closed session now, and I have a motion. Be it resolved that pursuant to the Public Libraries Act, I won't go through all the chapters and subchapters, that the Haliburton County Library Board enters into closed session for the following reasons: a personnel matter about an identifiable individual. Could I have a mover and seconder, please? Second by Lisa, moved by Lisa, sorry. Seconded by Jennifer, okay. And I'm going to put 5:02 as the time.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we're in closed session now. Now, you see this join the breakout room, we have to join that, okay? The board. Everybody,
Yeah.
Do you want us to say here?
No, you have to go, sorry.
No, I know.
No problem at all.
I will next time. Okay, so now we're finished the in-camera. The next item is the next meeting date, which is June 14th, 2023 at 3 o'clock. Not 4 o'clock. Jennifer?
Sorry, just getting my mute button. I can't recall if we did decide to revert to 4 p.m. last time going forward, but I think for me, being an hour away from where I have to be in the day, 4 o'clock would probably be the most consistent hour.
And on the 14th, we also have joint accessibility committee after county council, so, or
Yeah.
whole council. So, yeah, I mean, that's, it might not be a bad idea, just if that works for everybody else, just so that
Yeah.
there's consistency. It's a little difficult for Jen Cease and even Walt for that matter. It's not too bad for me, but
Works fine for me. I'm okay with that as well. 4 o'clock's fine.
is that okay with the other members of the committee, of the board
So
that are in the room?
obviously, it's up to the board. We can make that change. I don't think maybe we need a resolution. I don't even know. But it does affect the staff, in which case I'll just have to chat with them because they start at 8 in the morning or 8:30. And then they have to stay longer to help, which is fine. I just need to run about.
I'll just leave.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I think what I'm hearing is that you'd like 4 p.m. as a standard time moving forward. Is that right?
Yeah. I think to accommodate the councilors, I think that's a good idea, and it's only fair. Members of the council don't know, formally when meetings end. They usually know when they start, but not when they end, because there's can be all kinds of things that are going on. So let's leave it at 4, and we'll all be okay with that.
All right, so I'll update the work plan. I'll send that out just so you have all the new dates and times. And then we'll do a bit of a campaign, social media and whatnot, to just let the public know and the media that the change is taking effect as of the next meeting.
Okay, great.
If I could just add to that, just based on experience for the last few meetings, it's probably a question of either making it 4 o'clock consistently or making a last minute change every other month to make it 4 o'clock because of the, how quickly things
Yeah,
get pushed back at council. So
yeah.
Fair enough. I think council meetings seem to have gotten longer in the last little while because they add new things like the other committees too, right? Okay.
Okay, thank you all very much. We'll deal with adjournment. Need a motion to adjourn. Only a mover. We don't need a seconder or a vote on that. So thank you all very much. Good. Cease, did you have a question?
No, you just were asking for a mover, so I just stuck my hand up in case there wasn't one.
I think Lisa beat everybody to the, or sorry, Jennifer